Good morning, good Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. So the official emblem of the State of Israel is not the Star of David. It's the menorah that's flanked by two olive branches. The olive branches symbolize the peace that Israel has always hoped to have with its neighbors. And the menorah was found originally in the tabernacle, in the Mishkan, and then later in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple. And the menorah was lit every day, and it had 7 branches, which symbolized the 7 days of creation, and with Shabbat in the middle. The image of the menorah that's used on the official emblem of the State of Israel is actually taken from the image of the menorah that's on the Arch of Titus. The Arch of Titus was created by the Romans to celebrate the destruction of the temple and the exile of the Jews. The temple was destroyed in the year 70. Titus was the son of Vespasian, who was the general who destroyed Jerusalem and later became emperor himself. Now, there are a lot of other images of the menorah from ancient synagogues of the time. There are images that actually predate the destruction of the temple. And it's fascinating to me that the State of Israel chose the image from the Arch of Titus, which was the symbol of our degradation, to be on the emblem of the State of Israel. In fact, the Arch of Titus was such a symbol of sadness for the Jewish people that it was actually forbidden for Jews to walk under the Arch of Titus by Jewish law until 1948. Because if you see the image on the Arch of Titus, it's the Romans carrying away the menorah from the burning temple. It was a symbol of Roman triumph. The menorah itself was made out of gold, which clearly made it valuable, and the height of it seems to be about 5.5 feet or so. This would have been about the height of the menorah. We tend to think of it as something much larger, but it's described as 18 handbreadths. So depending on which archaeologist you ask, it's about 5 feet 6 to about 5 feet 10. So the question is, why did the Romans celebrate particularly taking the menorah? And then why did the State of Israel make that image the symbol of Israel? The menorah, as I mentioned, symbolized Shabbat and the 7 days of the week, with Shabbat in the center, and the Romans hated the idea of Shabbat. In the Roman Empire, you had different levels of people and different kinds of laws for different people. So there were citizens, and it was not easy to become a citizen. There were free people who were, they were free, but they didn't have full rights of citizenship. And then you had people who were enslaved. And it was very hard to move between these different categories. And citizens, of course, had the highest level of freedom. They could pretty much do what they wanted whenever they wanted. Everyone else was really dependent on the whims of the emperor. So that meant that you got a day off when the emperor said you got a day off. So if you had a really, really fun emperor, like say, like Nero, you got lots of days off. If you had kind of a stick in the mud like Claudius, maybe 1 or 2 a year. But to say that you were entitled to a day off every week was an act of subversion. The Romans thought that the Jews were conspiratorial against the Roman emperor, because they said they got a day off every week. And everyone got a day off. Jewish law applied to everybody, even if they weren't Jewish, when it came to having a day of rest. And the Romans simply could not tolerate this, and when they destroyed the temple, they took the menorah away. And the last time the menorah seems to have been cited was in the mid-500s of the Common Era, and then it disappears. There's a rumor it's in the Vatican basement. It's not true. It was probably melted down or broken into pieces. Again, it was solid gold. But the menorah disappears, but the Arch of Titus is that symbol of Roman triumph for many centuries to come. And throughout our history, though, we maintained a connection to the menorah. In fact, it was considered to be so powerful and so holy that you weren't allowed to make your own candelabra of 7 branches. It's actually in the Talmud that you're not allowed to do that. Lo asra Torah ela shamashim she'afshar laso kamotam kidatanya lo yasa adam bayat tavnit heichal ach sadra tavnit ulam chatzer keneged ezra shulchan neged shulchan and menorah keneged menorah. You could have pictures of the menorah, but you couldn't have the menorah itself, because there was a hope that someday when the Jews return to the land that the menorah could be rebuilt. There was a commentator named Sforno who said that the power of the menorah was not just in the 7 days of the week and the fact that everyone could participate, but that it represented every single different kind of person as well. That there was not an ideal person. Under the Romans, there was an ideal sense of beauty, and it was based on physical perfection, perfect intellect, and if you weren't perfect, you weren't really created in God's image. What the menorah symbolizes by having all the different branches and all the separate lights is that everyone is valuable for exactly who they are. And in fact, it's considered to be so valuable that in the Mishnah it says, Shiva k'nei menorah ma'akvin za et za, Shiva nerotea ma'akvin za et za, that if you have 7 branches of the menorah and one branch is missing, it invalidates all the other ones. It means each branch of the menorah is dependent on each other. And our sages understood this to mean that if you exclude one kind of person from society, you have excluded all kinds of people. You can't just say, I will be a light by myself and my light is valid and I don't need someone else's. Every single kind of person, regardless of who they are, is critical and necessary. And without them, the rest of society does not have the light that it needs. And I think that this is the power of the menorah, which is described in our Torah portion today, that God created every human being in God's image, not just some people in God's image. And when we make people feel less than for who they are, we're not only extinguishing their light, we're extinguishing our own as well. You cannot diminish someone else without diminishing yourself. And we're living at a time where so many people are being excluded from society for who they are, and the people doing the excluding don't realize how small they are becoming themselves. And the idea of the light is that light is expansive. Light brings warmth. Light brings understanding. So we all have to find a way to make sure that every person feel like they're a branch on the menorah, that they are part of the light. That if every single person was created in God's image, then God finds each person beautiful as well, and it means we have to as well. Shabbat Shalom.